and welcome to another Tri-tutors video. In today's video we're going to be going through some scene poetry questions for the poem It is a Beauteous Evening, Calm and Free. So before getting into this video, I would suggest that you go ahead and watch my video on the poem It is a Beauteous Evening, Calm and Free, where I've unpacked all the figures of speech, poetic devices, and even some important vocabulary for the poem before you get into actually answering some questions on the poem. I would also suggest that you go ahead and watch the video on the questions for the poem of Solitude, because in that video I've gone into a little bit more detail as to what is expected in a poetry answer and how to answer the questions in more detail. So after you watch those videos, please come back to this one, and now let's get into some questions. So here's our poem, and then we've got 4 questions to mimic how it's really asked in the exam. So this is really in the exam style formatting. We've got 10 marks allocated here, and we've got 4 questions. So question 1 says, refer to lines 2 to 3, explain the figure of speech. This is a 3-mark question. So it's going to be very important that you firstly tell me what the figure of speech is, and then you explain and account for its effectiveness for those additional 2 marks in that question. Question 2 says, refer to lines 1 to 8. How does the diction enhance the message of the poem? Also a 3-mark question. So over here, you're going to be telling me the specific diction and the connotations of the particular words. Then you're going to be telling me the message of the poem, and then linking it together and showing how the one enhances the other. Question 3, nice and simple. Refer to line 11. Provide a synonym for divine in this context. 1 mark. And question 4, refer to the whole poem. Critically discuss the effectiveness of the poem's structure. So over here, you're going to have to tell me what the poem structure is, and then give me 2 marks worth of explanation as to why this is effective. So please pause the video, try answer the questions, and when you come back, we'll go through some model answers. So in English, we don't really use memos, we rather use marking guidelines as teachers, because we want to make sure that we mark based on the merit of the answer and not according to just our own understanding of the poem. So remember, with poetry there's so many different interpretations, but it's really important that when you answer questions that you justify yourself so that you can attain those marks. So your marker needs to see that you can explain yourself and that what you're talking about is actually accurate. So as we go through these answers, obviously no one's going to get the same answer in English. I'm just going to point out to you where the marks are going to be allocated and show you through the model answers of how one way, or show you one way as to how you can get those marks. So question 1 said, refer to lines 2 to 3, explain the figure of speech. The holy time is quiet as a nun, breathless with adoration, is a simile which compares the evening to the prayer time of a nun. So there's 1 mark explaining the figure of speech. I've got that it's a simile, and I've shown what is being compared to what. The nun's prayer time is sacred and filled with wonder and awe as she prays. The speaker feels this way as he appreciates nature on this particular beauteous evening. He is in awe of the splendor of nature, and just as the nun is breathless with the presence of God, the speaker is breathless in the presence of nature's eternal tranquility. The simile therefore emphasizes the earnest tone of wonderment prevalent in the poem. So as you can see there, I've actually got 2 or 3 different ways of explaining, so I'm definitely going to get my 3 marks overall. So the first mark comes from just actually defining what the figure of speech is and what's being compared, and the other 2 marks come from linking it to the theme, how the speaker is feeling, and to the tone. Question 2. Refer to lines 1 to 8. How does the diction enhance the message of the poem? The octave of the poem uses diction with positive connotations such as beauteous, holy, and everlasting. Beauteous has connotations of grandeur and incomparable splendor, while holy connotes a godlike presence. So there I have my marks for diction, and I've got an additional one just to make sure I'm going to get those marks with. Everlasting has connotations of being eternal and immortal. Whenever it's a 3-mark question regarding diction, I would always suggest give at least 2 different examples just to cover yourself. Now we get the 2nd mark, which is the message mark. The message of the poem is about appreciating the beauty of nature with adoration and praising the presence of God within the natural world. And lastly, we're showing how the one enhances the other. The diction, therefore, enhances the message as it emphasizes the magnificence of nature, which lasts forever. Question 3. Refer to line 11. Provide a synonym for divine in this context. This is a very clear one if it's correct or incorrect. The words, some synonyms you could use to answer this could be holy or godly. And question 4, refer to the whole poem, critically discuss the effectiveness of the poem's structure. The poem is an Italian or Petrarchan sonnet. It comprises 14 lines split into an octave with the rhyme scheme ABBA, ACCA, and a sestet with the rhyme scheme of DEF, DFE. So here we have that structure mark. Now we're going to discuss it. The speaker uses the octave to convey the beauty of the evening in the presence of God as he observed the gentleness of heaven, while the sestet is indicated with the volta dia and conveys the speaker's conversation to a child and his comments on children's connection to God and nature. The structure is therefore effective as it highlights the progression of the speaker's reflections as he considers nature through his eyes and then through the eye of a child, and thus adds authenticity and ardor to the poem's tone. So as you can see, the first part of the discussion was pretty literal, just explaining what the octave does, what the volta does, what the sestet does, and then we have the third mark for the critical discussion where we emphasize its effectiveness, the effectiveness of using this particular structure. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful. Please make sure to like the video and to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.